Teddy, darling, are you ready to introduce the show? Oh, good. Yes. So, welcome to Pet Talk with me, Anna, and what do you want to say? Teddy, good. And our guest today is Teddy, darling. Would you like to say who our guest is? Who's our guest? Can you remember? Susannah Wieland. Well done, Teddy. Thank you very much, darling. And
Hi,
Susannah.
Hannah. Hi, Teddy.
Oh, so now Susannah is very special because not only can she talk to us, the humans, she also has a very special way of talking to animals. Did you know that, Teddy? Teddy, darling? Are you done for now, or is there woof? Okay, that's it. So yes, I think Teddy agrees that this is a very special guest that we have here today. Susannah, welcome from both of us now.
Thank you so much. It's lovely. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. What's it like to be able to have a telepathic link with animals?
Oh, I just think it's my biggest gift, from the universe to me. Um, it's it's extraordinary. And do you know the amazing thing is that I didn't realize until I was about 40 that I was doing anything different to anybody else because I've just been chatting away to animals all my life and being very small. And I was sort of woken up to it by one of my mum's dogs who was in a great deal of need at the time, and it really made me realize, oh gosh, I've been having all these conversations and I've been saying to people, your guinea pig said this to me, and for years and years, and then it kind of made me sort of have to stand up and say, the animals need a voice and they would like me to come forward and say that I can do it. So, but yes, it's constant chatter most of the time, as you can imagine.
Well, this little guy is quite vocal at the best of times. But I do often wonder what's going on inside his head.
Mm.
And I
I
think
think, yeah, I think we all do with our animals, don't we? Because there'll be a certain look. The great news is that we're all already doing it, as far as I'm concerned. We've got that connection with our animals. It's a heart connection. It's an intuitive connection here, and we learn to know what a certain look means from we may have a different dog at different times of our lives, and one look from one dog will mean one thing, and one from another will mean something else, and so we're working with them all the time, and they're very keen on us hearing, so they try and make themselves heard.
they do. And so yes, indeed. When Teddy came along, um, first dog ever to be in my life, it was my deepest wish to learn and to understand him and his body
Mm,
language and his way of
mm.
communication. And on the whole, we muddle along quite nicely. But there are times when I question his judgment, and I'm sure there are many times he questions mine.
Well, that's all part of a relationship, isn't
It's
it? I
so
think that's the same with any being on this planet, isn't it? The relationships we have between humans and animals, and animals and animals, there are points of negotiation, shall we say.
definitely there are points of negotiation. So how does it work? Do people make appointments and send you pictures? Or would I sit on a Zoom call with you or visit you with my animal, and then we have a conversation with you as interpreter? How does this work?
Yeah, I think interpreters are good a good way of putting it. I feel like I'm the go-between, sort of in the middle, um, just passing messages back and forth, really. And very much depends, where you live. I love to come to see the animals in their own home, because I think that is the dream, really, that they're relaxed and they're not having to travel anywhere, and the parents are not having to try to find an address. That works really nicely. But the practicalities of the world mean that I speak to clients all over the world, and so video calls are a wonderful, wonderful thing. And that's lovely because it's, as in person as we can get. And you can ask questions as you go along, and I can give the information as we go along. And then there are the people who like to send me a photograph. And what we do is we arrange a time when a person can sit with their animal, ideally, and have like a lovely hour chill out with them, and they can watch what's happening, feel what's happening, and then I will sit and tune in, connect with their animal, and I write notes up for them, which are quite comprehensive, and send those through. And some people like a mix of those. They might have a regular call with me, and sometimes we're on Zoom, and sometimes I'm doing it remotely. And some of the animals love being on video. That's their favorite.
I think Teddy's not so interested on being on video. He
Mm,
likes our guests, but then his default is to do this
yes, and be very relaxed.
and be very
And
relaxed. Yes.
yeah, and I mean, one of the things about doing distance healing, distance communication, is that if you've got a nervous animal, if you've got a rescue animal, if you've got a cat, and they often don't like to be looked at too closely, that sort of chill out where mum or dad is with their animal, just relaxing and spending quality time with them while I communicate behind the scenes, can work really well. And of course, I encourage people to send me questions, and to send me messages for their animals. And if some people like to write letters, and that is just, gosh, that's such a beautiful thing to do. The emotion that comes through when I'm reading a love letter, from an animal parent to their animal, saying how much they appreciate them. And gosh, it can make such a difference, to what's going on.
So this is a wonderful gift that you have, that you're able to establish a telepathic link with an animal. Some people are going to say, yeah, but they don't speak English, they don't speak human language. So how how is it possible to have a telepathic link?
Mm. Well, I think that the language I hear, it doesn't matter where in the world an animal lives, I hear English. So, there's some sort of translation that happens, so that I can understand. I'm not quite sure the mechanism of how that works. And but it's important to say that it's not always, I mean, we imagine with animal communication that we're going to hear a voice really clearly, and it's going to be like you and I chatting now, Anna. Sometimes it is, sometimes they chat away just like that. But a lot of the time, I'm relying on other telepathic senses. So there is the feeling. So I will feel in my heart what is going on. They're very good at showing me emotionally how they're feeling. They very visual. Animals tend to be incredibly visual at showing not just images, but almost, I see almost like old style cine film replay of things that have happened. So, that's a really good one, because then I can show images back as well. They really respond well to that. Some of it is what I would call a knowing. There's like a gut feeling. Um, and often I get nudged by the animal to say something. So it might seem like something ridiculous. A good example of that is a sheep, an elderly sheep, telling me that he wanted a banana. And I felt like this is going to be. Luckily, I knew his mum quite well. But, it's like, okay, I'm going to have to say it, and I get nudged and nudged and nudged if I'm resisting. And of course, it's nothing about me. It's not to do with me. The message is not mine. So I deliver the message, feeling a bit daft, and lo and behold, the sheep ate a banana. And he must have needed potassium, whatever it was. Um, So, there's all of that, and sometimes there's a taste. I'll get a taste or a sense of a texture. I could sort of explain what sort of blanket a dog might like. So there's a lot going on there. It's not just sort of the hearing. And I think, it's always one of those things where anybody with any common sense is going to doubt, is this really happening? And the only way to untangle that is to see how the animal responds and whether the issue that they've got, the problem that they've got starts to improve. Sorry, a bit croaky. Starts to improve, does the relationship improve? Do the messages resonate? So, I'm always very open to feedback. I love to know what's happening and to follow up.
It's absolutely wonderful, and clearly you're doing very well because people are seeing the results. So this is a wonderful um, gift that you have. But it is not the only thing that you do, because you also are a healer. And so this would be akin to Reiki.
Mm,
Is very interesting. How do animals respond to energy healing of that type?
mm. Well, again, that varies. It's very much, on the animal's terms as far as I'm concerned. And so it's an invitation, same as animal communication. This is an invitation to connect, and they can sense the Reiki coming through me. And for example, working with a guinea pig when I was very first had my Reiki, and the guinea pig came up and snuffled all around my hands, and it's like I can feel something, having been totally uninterested in me up until that point, and then reversed into my hands to sit, in contact with the healing. Um, he stayed for as long as he needed to, and then he took himself off and did something else. But in actual fact, before he took himself off, he lay on his side, and completely went flat, which for a guinea pig, is a huge sign of trust and allowing themselves to be vulnerable because they're a prey animal. That's a sign. Um, they interact differently. A dog may walk towards the energy, walk away, walk towards, walk away. My mum had two black and white English pointers at one point, and they were very different personality. And actually, the one that was always very sort of affectionate and almost clingy, I could sit with them either side of me, and I would say, "Would you like healing?" And he would be shrugging, like, "Get off me, get off me. No, I don't want it. Get off me." So I would just be like, "Okay, nothing coming to you." And the one on the other side, who's very independent and a bit of a maverick, would just lie there on his back with his legs in the air and be like, "I'll have all of it." you know and so it's very much about, like you said, about watching body language. It's a sensing what's going on, but also watching their behavior and allowing it. If they just need 2 minutes, it's 2 minutes.
It is a very powerful thing. I can remember the first cat that lived with us. Um, just before she passed, there was a day in which we thought she might be about to, and we were panicking because it was out of hours and we didn't want her suffering. But my partner just put his hands over her, and we saw her body go. And
Mm,
whatever discomfort she was in went. It was
mm,
quite an extraordinary experience. And subsequently, we have seen that when our animals have been uncomfortable,
mm,
respond very well. And I can think of our second cat. A friend of ours was a Reiki healer, and he liked people, but he wasn't overly concerned with befriending them, if I could put it like that.
mm,
Uh, he had one or two favorites, but he really liked sitting with her because
Mm,
she would just send him energy. So, and
mm,
you could see he really loved that. Uh,
mm.
so it's something that you almost have to see it to understand that there's something going on, because it's not
Yes.
the kind of thing that you can um, explain very easily. But you look at their response, and their
Mm,
response is very, very clear. So now there are different modalities of healing,
mm.
and there is another one which you are involved with, which is called applied zoopharmaconosy. Um,
Yes.
tell us what that is.
Okay. Well, I think I said to you before, I seem to manage to choose things that have big names. This was this was my first qualification in holistic animal health, and what it means is that animals know how to self-select their own natural plant medicines, and the name comes from scientists who have used the phrase for wild animals where they've actually witnessed chimpanzees in the wild. The wonderful Jane Goodall has witnessed chimpanzees choosing the same plants for symptoms of diarrhea and stomach upset that the local tribespeople select. And this was years and years ago, back in the 80s, that she realized that something was going on. And there have been so many amazing documented cases where parrots in the rainforest will go and self-select clay and eat that because that actually counteracts the cyanide that builds up in their system because of their natural diet there. So the applied zoopharmaconosy relates to domesticated animals and the fact that their innate knowing as a wild animal, so the wild ancestors, so for our dogs, wolves, know how to self-select what they need for ailments because they don't have access to veterinary care. So, they will go out and dig up the roots of plants, or they'll eat the leaves of plants. They'll eat flowers. They'll eat a selection of clays and soils, things like that. And what I'm doing is bringing to our domesticated animals the opportunity to choose from quite a big kit of things, um, plant medicines that they can that replicate what they would find in the wild. So, for example, rose essential oil. And many dogs love rose and would go and eat wild rose hips, wild dog rose in the wild if you're given the opportunity. And we see it with our dogs and cats where they go and eat grass. And it's not just like they go and eat grass like a cow would. There is one particular strand of grass, isn't there, that they have to stretch to get because that is the right one. That's got the right level of goodness in for what they need, and they may use it to purge, be sick if they've got a tummy upset, or they're doing it for nutritional benefits. So they're not. It's not foods generally, or things that would be considered to be foods. It's things that, if you have a lot of it, it would taste very bitter. And their mechanism of knowing is that they will inhale or they may lick something. This is not cats, by the way. Cats are very different with essential oils. But horses and dogs would inhale, lick, want it stroked on them. So just a fascinating way to work with them, and can be so key with things like fear of fireworks, anxieties, things like arthritis. It was very successful with my horse Amy, who was 32 when I started working with her with essential oils.
Do they have a favorite generally?
No. I have things that I wouldn't be without in my kit. So I would always want to have with me rose essential oil, or a rose absolute, or rose hydrosol, some description, a good quality one. I would always want to have peppermint essential oil, green clay, seaweed extract in my kit. And that is because you can do some incredible first aid with those four things. Like, you've got an emergency standby of things that could help with a lot of different issues. Um, But for example, with anxiety, there's probably 12 things in my kit which could help with anxiety. And sometimes it can be a surprising thing because there's no written textbook in terms of um, this essential oil does this for animals. It is more that this essential oil has been seen to help with the following conditions. It's still a new science. It's still being looked at and developed. And I was lucky enough to train with the lady who brought this to us, Caroline Ingraham, who is a fantastic pioneer for animal well-being and health. And she's worked all over the world, worked with orphaned elephants, and any tigers, all sorts of species of animals, monkeys, and found that she's been able to help them overcome grief and difficulties with things like captivity.
I can hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, come on, our dogs eat poo." You know,
But that's not, yeah, that's slightly different. Yeah, that's slightly different. That is a innate behavior. That's an old behavior. Um, and it's a bit like, the classic is that if someone's got a Labrador, they'll say, well, my Labrador will eat everything. Everything that's in your kit, my Labrador will eat. Now, I've got, essential oils. I've got things like rose hips. That could be, considered to be a food, but there's not a huge amount of like calorie intake in that. That's very much a vitamin thing. Spirulina has got good calorie content, but it's an acquired taste. Lots of dried herbs, and I've worked with a mountain dog who sat and ate almost an entire bag of calendula flowers. This is not an easy thing for a dog to eat. This is not. This is a dry. Obviously we supply water, but she didn't stop for water. She ate nearly a whole bag of calendula flowers. That would be a lot easier for a horse to eat because they've got kind of the mechanism to do it. But for a dog to do that, that shows that there's something in there that they're trying to get from a health point of view.
well, we do know that calendula is an excellent anti-inflammatory.
Mm.
So it's we use it for burns, we use it for all sorts of things.
Mm.
So
Yes, and for sadness, it's an amazing remedy if you've got an animal who's a bit sad, a bit down. Think about the marigold flower, you've got a cheerful, bright flower. So it's uplifting as well.
so this is interesting. And I know that there are going to be many people who find it hard to believe that their dogs have any sense at all. But they do. And I was talking about the poo situation, but in actual fact, our other wonderful another wonderful guest, um, Surabi Venkatesh, who is a nutritionist, explains to us that actually there's something about the need for the bacteria that's there, including the reason why they're eating soil. It's like a probiotic that they're having that's natural.
Yes.
So they do have that sense of
Mm.
needing something. And we have to be careful that we are not killing that natural instinct in the same way that we've done it to ourselves, because we become so disconnected from our own body's needs and our own body's healing.
Mm.
But our
Yeah.
still have that, and we have to watch carefully and understand what it is they're doing before jumping in and making assumptions.
Yes, and I think, there's always that line, isn't there, that we may be concerned that they're eating something that won't be good for them. That's completely understandable and natural. And, you know, I think it's a good distinction that, these are specific plant remedies that have been selected by trained zoopharmacognosists like Caroline, who has worked with these with animals to make sure that they are of the highest standard and that they're the correct and safe human grade, for the animals to have. And there are cases where animals have had a problem with an essential oil, and that's why I said about cats, because they have a very different metabolism and mechanism for coping with the plant medicines. And so if they licked an essential oil accidentally, which has happened where someone's had an oil burner and they brushed into it, got it on their coat, licked it off, and then been poisoned by something like clove essential oil, it's an accident that's happened, but it brings this, the story that essential oils are poisonous for cats, full stop, or for all animals, full stop. And I think, the important thing is work with somebody who has done the training that can guide you and safely guide you through what your animal's experiencing with the oils. And, they do have this knowing of how much to have and when to stop. But there is also that fine line of, you know, if it's things like man-made products. So something like, trying to think what it is. It's like screen wash fluid, for example. Dogs have been poisoned on that, and it's because it contains sugar. So they may think that's a food item and go for it big time and then have a problem. These are essential oils and herbs that have been carefully selected, and the consultation would be, is your animal on medication? You're not replacing veterinary medication, you're working alongside it. So, you're checking, the guardian is checking in with the vet that this is safe for their animal to proceed. There's lots of sort of safety checks around it.
Perfect. What kinds of situations do you find that you're getting called in to help with?
Mm. So a really big one at the moment is, and since COVID pandemic came along in our lives, is separation anxiety. I've seen a really big increase in that. I would say 4 times the amount of animals are coming forward with separation anxiety, social anxiety, anxiety of all sorts, really. And holiday separation anxiety, that's a big one coming up. Um, so these are things that I'm blogging about and that I'm creating little mini classes around to give guardians their exercises, animal communication exercises that they can try right now, meditations that they can use. You don't have to have any previous experience of it. These are things that um, I use all the time, and I've helped other people to use a lot and seen, some good results with it, where it's helping everybody to feel better, a bit more supported. You feel like you can do something as a guardian, because it's awful if you think your animal's upset and you've got away on holiday. So so there's that's going on a lot. There's lot of allergy at the moment, lots of hay fever. People who have hay fever are seeing it's worse this year. Of course, if our dogs and our horses get hay fever, they're also finding it's worse. So a lot of itchiness going on.
Interesting. That's quite a big array of issues that you could help with.
Mm.
So how do people find you, Susannah?
Well, I've got my website. My business is called Self Selection for Animals. So it's www.selfselectionforanimals.co.uk, and it's all words, not a number four. And I'm on Instagram and on Facebook as Self Selection for Animals. You're welcome to come and find me, as I'm still Susannah Raphael on Facebook on my personal page. Drop me a message. I got married last year, so I'm still, Facebook's the last one I'm changing, I think. So that's in the process of being changed. And but you can have a free 20-minute discovery call with me if you're interested. We can have a chat about your animal and about, the different things that I do and whether we think something might be helpful.
Perfect. Susannah, thank you so much for introducing us to your wonderful world.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Teddy. Hope you had a lovely rest.
He's still out for the count, I think. Oh,
Oh, such a pleasure, Anna. Thank you.
thank
Take
you.
care.
And thank you all for watching. Until next time, goodbye.